minute. Okay, I will share my PPT.
Yeah, our host will just give a brief explanation because I think some people are just coming for this lecture or haven't been on the others, and then I think she will let you start. So thank you, Professor Dr. Lee, for this opportunity, and Leticia can start. Thank you as well.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to start my lecture, everyone. My lecture is about the digital divide between China
sorry,
and
Professor. Just can Leticia just speak a little bit because she will send some information about the course to the students. Sorry.
Oh, okay, I will wait.
Hello, Professor. I'm Leticia, and I'll be the host tonight. Welcome, everyone, to the 5th lecture of our first China Studies track. This week, we will have 5 lectures guided by esteemed professors from Zhejiang International Studies University. Before introducing our professor, I'd like to explain a little about the dynamic of the China Studies track, just in case of new participants joining us today. In this first week, we will receive Zhejiang International Studies University, but soon we will publicize other lectures in future partners. The certificates will be provided to attendees who participate in at least 3 out of the 5 lectures. In this way, attendance will be recorded after each class via an attendance form that I will send in the chat before we start the Q&A section. Furthermore, about the Q&A, make sure to send your questions on the chat during the lecture. We will compile and ask some of them in the end of the class. Well, in our last session, we are honored to host Dr. Lila, who will talk about Chinese digital trade. Doctoring in Western economy, Professor Lee has been dedicating her research on business innovation and international investments. She publicized 6 high-level articles and shared some research projects. In our Instagram page, you can get to know more about her research and recent publications. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for participating in this project and accepting Jeshina's invitation to bring more knowledge about China to Brazilian students. Well, feel free to start your lecture now. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you. May I start? Yeah, I'd like to start my lecture here. Today, I'd like to talk about the digital divide between China and America and on the perspective of data, human rights, and security. My lecture will be divided into 3 parts. First, I'd like to give you some facts of data, and then I will use a lot of graphs to show the digital divide between China, America, and some other important economies. And third, I will talk about data in relation to human rights and security. So first, let me give you some facts of data. First, data flows. Data, as we know, it is a very important factor of digital trade. It is a very appealing new factor of digital trade. It has a lot of special characteristics. Okay, first, we can see that data flows are hard to be measured, but it grows very fast. Its growth rate is steeply upwards, especially after the COVID-19. We had a dramatic impact. COVID-19 had a dramatic impact on internet traffic, as most activities increasingly took place online. We can see a growth rate here. Since 1913, we had a highest growth rate of global internet bandwidth, which is 35% in 2020. And 80% of all internet traffic relates to videos, social networking, and gaming. We have measured cross-border data flows, use the capacity of international internet bandwidth, but this measurement is still not so good. So how to measure cross-border data flows is still a very challenging problem here. Okay, so this is the first fact of data. Second, the data-driven digital economy is characterized by large imbalances. That's why we will talk about a digital divide between different countries. Okay, only 20% of people in least developed countries, LDCs for short, use the internet. And we can find significant divides between rural and urban areas. And the largest gender divides are observed among least development countries and in the African region. Imbalances between countries are also very obvious. We can see that United States and China together accounts for 50% of world's hyperscale data center and the highest rates of 5G, and 94% of all funding of AI startup, and 70% of the world's top AI researchers, and 90% of the market capitalization of the world's largest digital platforms. So United States, China, and European countries, maybe they account for the most parts of the digital trade in the world. Okay, so large imbalances. A third fact that common understanding of what data and their flows across borders are and can do is lacking. I will give you some characteristics of data. First, the data is intangible. We can look at these. Apples are tangible. That means you can touch them. Maybe you can you can see the shapes of a tangible product, but data is intangible, such as some music. You can only hear it. It do not have a specific shape here. So it is very special. And then data is non-rival. Rival means once you have used it, the value of these goods will decrease. But data is non-rival, which means many people can use the same data simultaneously or over time without depleting them. You can use the data over and over again without decrease its value. So it's very special. And the data has varying degrees of excludability. Excludability means it belongs to someone. Once you want to use it, you need to pay for it. But its degree of excludability is varying. Okay, for example, data collected by major global platforms are not readily available for others to use, giving the platform owners a monopolistic position to benefit from the data. They can use this data, they can allow others to use this data. They have a monopolistic position to use this data or to allow others to use this data. So the excludability of data, it has a varying degrees, okay? And also data has an aggregated value once you use it, okay? once you aggregate it, once you use data aggregately, then the value will be greater than the sum of individual values, especially if combined with others, complementary data. Okay, the more detailed and granular the data, the more purposes they can be put to when filtered, aggregated, and combined in different ways to provide different insights, such as maybe it can give us some informations or some knowledges or wisdoms, and its aggregated value will be higher than the sum. Okay. Here I will give you a box, a figure here. If you are judging judging some goods, we have two dimensions to judge it. One is rival or non-rival. We have already talked about it. Rival means you can use it once you use some good, its value will decrease. Okay. Excludable means once it belongs to you, it will not be belongs to others. Okay. If one good is rival and excludable, then it is called private goods, such as food, oil, clothing, and other manufactured products, such as smartphones, fish in a private pond, etc. And some goods are common goods, which is rival and non-excludable. That means the value will decrease once you used it, but it didn't belongs to anyone, such as forests, land, everyone can use it, but once you used it, the value will decline, right? And atmosphere, water, fish in the ocean, etc. And some goods are called club goods, which means it is non-rival but excludable. Only the member of this club can use these goods, and but once you use it, its value will not decline, such as some satellite TV in the club, private parks. Everyone can look at the beautiful of the park, and its value will not decline. Cinemas, copyrighted software, and broadband, and so on. And the last one is called public goods. Public goods. We can see public goods are non-rival and non-excludable, such as some national defense, air, sunshine, news, public TV, public parks, street light, and lighthouses. We can see data is between club goods and public goods because it is non-rival and its degrees of excludability varies. Okay, varies. So it is very special because the traditional factors such as labor and capability, they are most of the time private goods. Think about it. Labor and capability, they are rival and excludable. But data, it is non-rival and have varying degrees of excludability, which will bring very special impact on the economy. Okay, data is also multidimensional. They can provide not only private value for those who collect and control the data, but also social value for the whole economy. Data are closely related to privacy and other human rights and national security issues. We will talk about these issues in the third part. Okay. That means data not only affect private issues, but also have social issues here. Cross-border data flows are not trade and should be treated differently. Okay, as we know, some other factors or products, if it is traded internationally, we say they are traded, right? But data are different. Rather than trying to determine who owns the data or who sells the data, what matters is who has the right to access, control, and use the data. Most of the time, we have several kinds of data, such as transaction data, which is volunteered by the buyers, the consumers, right? These data, most of the time, we didn't trade them. We just use them. And what is important is who has the right to access, to use these data. Okay, this is much more important. Okay, and cross-border data can be better understood as shared rather than as traded or exchanged, because it is non-rival, right? Once you share this data, the value of the data didn't change, okay, will not change, okay? So for many of the categorization of data that can be outlined, globally agreed definitions are also lacking. International trade governance is informed by statistics that rely on the types, values, and locations of trade, including source and destination. But it is hard to clearly talk about the types, values, and the locations of data. Okay, so most of the time we didn't say data flows are traded. We most of the time say data are shared. Okay. Important implications emerge from diverging approaches to governing data and cross-border data flows. These approaches are very different between different countries. Okay, for United States, the Chinese, the China, and the Europe, they are different. United States focuses on control of the data by the private sector. That means the private sectors can have the control of the data. They can use this data without maybe the private sector has the most control of data rather than the government or consumers who offer this data. And the Chinese model emphasizes control of data by the government, and the European Union favors control of data by individuals, which can mostly help to protect the right of consumers on the basis of fundamental rights and values. And the global digital corporations are also seeking to expand their own data ecosystems because we do not have a same approach to govern the data. Now, the right to control data is not settled, okay? So, and it is also a very challenging problem for some international structures such as the WTO and maybe international bank. They do not have the specific approach to help us to govern the data. Okay. I'd like to give a brief definition of data. Digitalization. This is our definition from UNCTAD. Okay. Digitalization of UNCTAD said that digitalization of any product or activity implies converting or coding it into a binary language of zeros and ones. Thus, everything on the internet is numbers. and therefore data. So this is, I think, a very brief definition of data. And here, what's the meaning of data flow? From the moment that bits leave the user devices, leave your devices, and enter the network, then data are flowing. So data is everywhere, and anytime data are generated, right? And the function of the internet and the digital economy is fundamentally based on how these data are flow within and between countries. So everyone will join in this digital economy. Everyone are part of digital economy. And since the internet is a global network, a large proportion of these are cross-border data flows. Cross-border, okay? Data, there are two kinds of data. One is called structured data. Structured data is the easiest to search and organize, such as you can write it in some sheets. Usually can be contained in rows and columns, and the elements can be mapped into fixed predefined fields. You can calculate them, you can use them, you can see the data here, maybe in Excel, right? This kind of data is called structured data. But most of the data are unstructured. They cannot be contained in a row column database and do not have an associated data model, such as some music. It do not, if you, music, online music is also constructed by data, but you cannot contain this data in a sheet or something like Excel, right? And some videos, some pictures, some sounds, anything, they are hard to be structured in a row and a column database. So, but also these data counts most of the data. So unstructured data, it is the most important part in data. And nowadays we talk about which is called big data. Okay, big data is mostly related to unstructured data, and 90% of total data are unstructured. Big data not only means the data is not only means there are a lot of data, but also means the speed of these data are very fast. Okay, here I give you some unit here. TB terabyte. It is we have already used the terabyte in our daily life. I think most of you are familiar with terabyte, and 1 terabyte equals to 1024 GB, right? And it can store like 2 million images in your daily life. But I think most of you didn't know petabyte. 1 petabyte equals to 1024 terabyte, and it can help us to store like 200 to 300 million high definition images. And extra byte, 1 extra byte equals to 1024 petabyte, and which can help us to store 2 billion high definition images. 1 zettabyte equals to 1024 extra byte, and can help to store 20 to 30 billion high definition images. Utabyte, it is very specific. 1 utabyte equals to 1024 zettabyte, and utabyte far exceeding the current total amount of data in the world. It is unimaginable, okay? So maybe extra beta, zettabyte, utabyte, they are unit of big data. Okay, when you refer to big data, maybe you are referred to extra byte, zettabyte, and utabyte of data. And also the speed of data of big data is also very fast. Okay, you can transfer it very fast using maybe 5G, right? Putting data together and processing them results in information, knowledge, and wisdom that can be used to take more informed decisions. I'd like to give you a graph here. What's the meaning of data, information, knowledge, and wisdom? Data is discrete, objective facts about phenomena, often obtained from some sensors, experiments, or surveys, such as the e-commerce platform registers website visits and user activities. They are just some facts or phenomena. But what about information? Once data are used and contextualized as answers to who, what, where, and when questions, then it can help us to explain some questions or problems. So data indicate who is looking at what web shop item, from which location, and what time, and for how long. Then these data becomes information. And the e-commerce platform can use this information to answer some questions, right? Such as who is looking at my product, and which item is welcomed, and the consumers located in which country, and at what time they will buy my product, and for how long they look at my website, and so on. And all of these questions we called the answers to these questions we called information. Okay. Once you use information to answer why questions, then this information becomes knowledge. Okay, why? It can help us to explain questions like why something happened. Analysis. Some analysis suggest that certain items are more in demand at a certain price among users with a particular profile. And once you know why these certain items are so welcomed, or why the selling of these certain items are so high, then this information becomes knowledge. Okay, so information, knowledge. And what is wisdom? Wisdom not only captures high level of knowledge, but also the ability to apply knowledge towards particular goals. Okay, once you have high level of knowledge, and you can use this knowledge to solve particular problems, or to some particular goals, then you will have wisdom. Okay, wisdom. For example, given the knowledge about its web visitors, the e-commerce platform can adjust prices and set up targeted advertising to increase sales. Okay, so we can see here are specific goals here. Maybe you want to you want more consumers to visit your e-platform, right? You want to set some targeted advertising. These are your goals, and you use this knowledge to achieve your particular goals. then this kind of knowledge is called wisdom. So data can help us to generate information, knowledge, and help us to generate wisdom, which can help us to attract more consumers to buy our goods or services. Okay. So data is the base. Data can be about people, organizations, the natural environment, the built environment, or manufactured objectives. It can about everything. Everything can be changed into data. Data can be used to make decisions with economic impacts, environmental impacts, or effects on health, education, or society in general. So it can be used in a lot of areas. Here are some different forms of data when you are doing international digital trade. One is called transaction data. Transaction data means data and information associated with commercial transactions, such as billing data, banking data, the name of the consumer, delivery address, and so on. And they can flow across countries when these transactions are international. And most of these transaction data are mainly volunteered and should not create any policy-related issue because once you want to use digital trade, this kind of data must be given. Otherwise, you cannot do this international trade, right? You need to let the platform know your name, your address, then you can buy these goods or services, right? So transaction data mainly volunteered and really create policy-related issues. The second kind of data in digital trade is called raw data. Most of the time they are individual activities, products, events, and behaviors, such as once you show something in your social network, then you generate some raw data. Raw data have no value by itself, but can generate value once aggregated, processed, and monetized. So the information, the data you put on your social network, once they are aggregated or analyzed, then they will have value or used for social value, okay? So this kind of data is a new dimension for international policy making challenges because it is closely related to privacy, okay, privacy. And it is the most important part when you are talking about the right of individual, right? Data products, okay, such as some information, knowledge, and wisdom. They may be considered as services, okay? Maybe some services that traded internationally. And therefore, their cross-border, when paid for, are captured in trade statistics and in trade regulations. So this is also not a challenge for policymaking because maybe we can use some traditional regulations such as GET and GTAs to help to calculate or to measure these services. But as I know that GET and GTAs, they do not include all the digital services in their framework. So it is still, there are still some progress we can make to update these regulations. Okay, let's move on to the second part, the digital divide between China and America. First, let's look at the telephony and broadband access between these two countries. Here we have a graph here about mobile telephony and broadband subscriptions by region. Selected years, the unit is per 100 people here. We have a lot of areas here. Africa, this orange part, Arab states, Asia and Pacific, China is in this part, this red part. The Americans, including United States and maybe Latin Americas, and Europe and CIS, which means Commonwealth of Independent States. We choose several years from 2005 to 2020. Let's look at this graph. This is mobile telephony. Okay, so here we can easily find which area has the highest mobile telephony here. Here, which one? Other than CIS, okay, maybe other than CIS, we can see that the Americas and the Europe, okay, here's the Americas and Europe, they have the highest rate of mobile telephony and broadband subscription, right? And which country or area has the lowest rate? We can see here, Africa, right? What about mobile broadband here? I think the outcome is still the same, right? Okay. So here we can see all groups of countries by level of development have experienced significant growth in mobile broadband penetration rates since 2010. You can see here, all areas have growth, have a positive growth rate from since 2010, right? Oh, sorry, this part, Arab states has a negative growth rate, right? Asia and Pacific, it has a positive increase here. Also Americas and Europe. I think the growth rate for Europe is very low, right? Although they have the highest mobile telephony and broadband subscription, right? But the growth rate is very low. And the growth rate for Africa is very high, right? There are large gaps remain over a decade later. The penetration rate in developed countries is double that of developing countries and 4 times that of LDCs. Okay, we can see the Europe and the United States, they are twice of the Asia and Pacific countries, right? The subscriptions. And maybe 4 times of the least developed countries, such as Africa, right? And the most significant growth in mobile broadband subscriptions was achieved in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific and Arab states. That means those areas have lower degrees of mobile telephony, but their growth rate is higher than the developed countries. Okay, and the penetration rates of mobile broadband in Asia and the Pacific Arab states and Africa represented respectively 3 of 4, less than 2 of 3, and only 1 of 3 of the American and European levels. Let's see here, the broadband, maybe here, 3 of 4, right? 3 of 4. The Asia and Pacific 3 of 4. Here, the red ones, and less than 2 of 3 for Arab states, and only 1 of 3 of the for the Africa. Okay, 1 of 3 for the Africa, 1 of 3 of America's mobile broadband here. So there are large gaps between different countries, and these large gaps remain for a very long time. Yeah, we can see here 15 years here, right? The gaps still exist, but we can see the gap shrinked, right? Decreased the gap. Okay, here. Let's see why this happened. First, the mobile broadband connection technologies have gaps between these countries. I will show you here. This is a figure about distribution of mobile network types coverage. We both show the average and the rate in urban and rural by level of development in 2020 here. We can see here this red part shows the 2G technique. This yellow part shows the 3G technique, and this blue part shows 4G technique. The use of 4G means higher, okay, a higher technique or more advanced technology network. So we can focus on this blue part. We can see the use of 4G technique for the world average is 85%, right? And for urban area, this rate is 95%, which is more than the average. And for rural, it is 71%. And for developed economies such as Americas and the European countries, we can see the total usage of 4G is 97%, which is higher than the world average. And all of the urban citizens use 4G, have access to 4G. And for rural areas, this is also higher than the world's average for rural, right? Which is 86%. For developing countries such as the Asia and Pacific and Arab states, we can see here the average of using of 4G is 82%, which is a little less than the world average. And urban use of 4G technique is 94%, which is also a little less than the world average. And the rural area, it is 70%, which is also a little less than the world average. But here, for least developed countries, we can see the story is totally different. We can see the total usage of 4G average is only 41%, which is only half, maybe less than half of the world average, right? And for urban area, this rate is 67%. I think it is lower than the world average, but it's, I think it is a little, I think it is not so low when you compared to the rural area. We can see that the rural area of the least development countries, the usage of 4G is only 27%. Okay, so the distribution of mobile network types or of 4G techniques, it can help us to explain why these least developed countries have lower mobile broadband or mobile telephone, have less mobile telephony. Okay, the second reasons may be the use of smartphone. Less people use smartphones, they will have less mobile telephony, right? So let's see the graph here. The smartphone adoption by region and selected years, year 2016, 2019, and 2025 here. Which of these is expected? This kind of data is for 2025 is expected, not real. Here, maybe I will give you some time to look at this graph. Okay, we can see here the smartphone adoption is about almost 80%, right? In 2016, and maybe about 85% in 2019, and it will grow to 90% in 2025. And Europe is less than North America. China, we didn't collect data in 2016, so we lose the data here. We lost the data here. We only have data for 2019 and 2025. We can see in 2019 the use of smartphone is only a little above 70%, but it will be very close to the rate of the North America in 2025 when expected. Okay, for Latin America, the rate is still high. 2016, it is only 55%. 2019, it is almost 70%, which is very close to China, right? And when expected, it will account for 80% in 2025. Asia and the Pacific, okay, which also include China in it. It is also it is very close to the Latin America, CIS. But what about Middle East and North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa? Here we can see Sub-Saharan Africa, it has a very low usage or adoption of smartphone. It is less than 30% in 2016 and less than about only 45%, right? Only 45% of the people use smartphones. And to 2025, this rate will grow to about or less than 70%, right? So we can see the growth rate of smartphone adoption in Sub-Saharan Africa, the growth rate is very speed, but it is still very low. The usage of smart adoption is still very low in 2019 and nowadays, right? So this may be the second reason. Third reason, affordability of internet-enabled phones. Oh, I do not have a graph here, but as we know, developed countries have high income, okay, high income than the least developed countries, right? So affordability is also a reason. Mobile data plans, maybe it also have a impact on the telephony use, okay? We can see here. This is broadband internet connection speeds, global and by level of their development in 2020. Okay, here we have two kinds of broadband: fixed broadband and mobile broadband. Here we can see the world average is here and here, right? And the developed economies and transition economies, their rate of speed, okay, we say speed, because as when we refer to big data, not only the numbers of data, but also the speeds of data, they are both important for big data. So here, let's look at the speed here. So developed countries have a very high speed in fixed broadband when you are using fixed broadband. And the transition economies is also larger than the world average. But for developing economies which do not have least developed countries in it, and the least developed countries, they are lower than the world average, especially for the least developed countries. And for mobile broadband, the story is the same. The story is the same. Okay, so here, maybe these are the reasons for why the telephony and broadband access for least developed countries are lower than the developed countries. 5G connections are expected to become key in the context of the data-driven digital economy as more and more data become available. But we can see here are still some imbalance here, because about 98% of the population in developed countries was covered by at least 3G networks in 2020, while that share in developed countries and LDCs was only 92% and 77% respectively. I think developed countries, it is better, right? But for least developed countries, this rate is very low. Okay. E-commerce use. E-commerce use is also very important because it means a country engage in and benefit from the digital economy. It comes to the business, right, to use data, to use internet to help to generate some profit, right? So here we can see there still have some imbalances in e-commerce use. More than 80% of internet users in some European countries shop online, but in many LDCs, the corresponding share is below 10%. And in Rwanda, especially, for example, only 9% of internet users used the internet to buy something online in 2017. We have UNCTAD have constructed a B2C e-commerce index. It is calculated as the average of 4 indicators. I will show you here. These are the 4 parts of region. 2020, you can see the index here. And this is the 2020 index value. And 2019 index value here. Maybe it is. I'll give you time to look at this graph. Here we can see in these four sub in you can see that for East, South, and Southeast Asia, the share of individuals using the internet maybe are chance for these countries to develop their economic use, right? And because it is a little less than the world average, but other indicators, sub-indicators here are all of them are higher than the world average, right? For Latin America and the Caribbean, maybe the chance arises in this postal reliability score because this it is too low here, right? Too low, and also maybe this individual with a bank and the South Internet servers also lower than the world's average, right? But not so much. The difference are not so much. And for Africa, as we know, Africa has the lowest telephonic access and broadband, right? But also its e-commerce use is also the lowest here. We can see. And in all areas, Africa needs to have the chance to grow. Okay, so here. Last, I'd like to briefly talk about data in relation to human rights and security. Data are not just an economy resource. They are also closely related to issue of privacy and human rights. For example, in 2013, the disclosure by Edward Snowden of global surveillance program, and in 2018, a leak of personal data of users, and in 2020, a leakage of facial recognition, facial recognition data, which will, and also here are some the data-driven digital economy has given rise to significant cases of misinformation and disinformation on the internet. The digital world is filled with fake news, which allow for the manipulation of society. And after the COVID-19, the WHO said we have an infodemic. We have an infodemic in our digital world. Social issues of data, which also we both have privacy issues and surveillance issues, and securities of individuals, such as maybe we will face data breaches, identity theft, malware, and ransomware. Also, we go through a lot of internet shutdowns during the years. Okay, thank you. I think, we have some time left. Okay, maybe I will talk about this. Internet shutdowns here. In 2020, we have 155 documented internet shutdowns, and 196 in 2018, and 213 in 2019. Disruptive effort on lives and livelihoods, such as it will damaging human rights and hurting public health and safety, and affect the right to development. Okay, so maybe I will stop here. So I'm very glad to looking forward to our future cooperation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor. The lecture was really amazing, enlightening. I'm sure everyone here learned a little more with you today. Now we are opening the Q&A section.
Okay.
In order manner, please send your questions to Dr. Lee. Use your hands, and we will let you ask. Anyone has any questions?
I have a question. It's not only related to the theme of the class, but with all those tensions between right now the U.S. and China, and how they are the U.S. is trying to control how China treats data and try to manipulate information on how China and how China deals with data, and China as a villain in this. Do you think it will this tension between the two countries? Do you think it will have an affect to this part, to the digital economy, to the digital commerce? Do you think it will have some affection? I mean, today they decided to sign the TikTok ban and some things like that. So do you think this will have a bigger repercussion in this area as well?
You think you said the conflict between China and the US, do these will affect the digital economy between these two countries, right? Conflict is very fierce, but in the same time there are cooperations. I think it is a very complicated problem. Some international institutions hope the world will come with some regulations that can help everyone, that can help us to eliminate the imbalances between countries, and hope for maybe more cooperations between countries, especially for China, United States, and European countries. I think it is a progress. In the future, maybe we will have more cooperation, but nowadays these conflicts will truly bring some problems to our digital economy. And as new techniques grows, and I think there will be more conflict and more coordination between these countries. I think this is a process, and finally we will get coordination. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Can we take a picture to register the lecture? Guys, can you turn on the cameras, please? Okay, thank you guys. Thank you,
Thank you.
Doutora.
Thank you. Hope for future coordination. Thank you. So this is for today. Okay, goodbye everyone.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you everyone that watched our week. Soon we will have more courses and other news about the next weeks. Thank you.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Bye, Professor.
Bye. Have a good day.